Bill Gates with technology here, but we'll try to keep you tuned in for the whole time. We got Facebook Live joining us here for the tnSportsChat. Check us out, our Times News Lehighton Sports Facebook. I'm Justin Carlucci. Here's Pat Matcinko. Twitter and Facebook are tuned in. And, you know, not the side sports, but it is side sport to this show because we're talking football. But the other fall sports are winding down. Volleyball, cross country, soccer, golf. And I saw a really great volleyball game last night. It was really good to get out there between Panther Valley and Marion. I know you've covered some stuff this week. Where were you this afternoon?
Cross country, a little Colonial League cross country action. We had one of our other reporters, Sam Mata, was at the Schuylkill League cross country meet at Tuscarora State Park. Looks like some of our kids did pretty well. Marion's Tina Caparell, Tamaulipa's Brad Clemson, Weatherly's Scotty Zoshin. So definitely a lot for Sam to write about, but also a lot for everybody to read tomorrow. So Northwestern girls captured the team title today at the Colonial League meet. So as soon as we're done this, we'll kind of get to work on that. But certainly a lot to look forward to the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
we got a lot to do. We got to finish up our football capsules, which will be in every Thursday's paper. I'm sure you know by now. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Pick up a Thursday's paper for some football previews. You'll see our Game of the Week story, which is Northwestern and Northern Lehigh. Is that right?
You could be right.
I could be.
You could be right. But we do have a lot of these kind of backyard rivalries now, where we get the Northwestern and the Northern Lehighs, and it kind of seems like it's that time of year. Week 9. Next week's the last week of the regular season already. So these next couple of weeks are obviously going to be, really, really big in terms of district standings and, what these teams might be facing heading into the postseason. So
sorry if I'm looking at my phone. I'm trying to figure out how to share my own post. You know what they say? You could bring a bear to the water, but you can't make him drink it or something.
I guess that's one of those, don't walk and Periscope at the same time.
I'm still
talk and Periscope at the same time. But,
feel free to like and share our posts for us. We like talking about high school football and a lot of crazy things last week. Guess we can jump around last week and then tie in with what's going on this coming Friday night. But we had a big statement game from Lehighton, giving it to Pottsville at 54-33. One of the biggest games of the week last week. So what's your immediate kind of feeling about that win for Lehighton?
I mean, Lehighton head coach Tom McCarroll talked to us last week when we were there, and he said that he thought Pottsville was going to be one of their biggest tests of the season, and that certainly proved to be true. But Lehighton also played, I don't know if it's one of its best games, but was ready for the challenge. And to put up 54 points on a Pottsville team is extremely impressive. We saw what they did to Tamaulipa a couple of weeks ago,
right. And
Tamaulipa's a very, very good team with a lot of offensive firepower. But the Indians found a way to put up an impressive amount of points against a Pottsville team that definitely is no pushover and one of the best in Schuylkill League Division 1. So
and our player of the week is Cody Scher from Lehighton. Not to spoil tomorrow's paper, but I'm gonna. So you'll see a player of the week story from him. Went to Indians practice today, interviewed Cody, then got back here, looked at the video, realized, man, it's really windy. It's kind of hard to hear him. So this is all the equipment we have for everything. So we apologize to Cody if that video is a little short, but I promise you I'll make you a good story for tomorrow's paper.
Hey, we're making the best with what we got. It's not about what you have. It's about making the best use out of it. So that's also not a very good saying or anything. It's very clever. So
it's not.
Sorry,
but I don't want to burst your bubble.
No.
Sometimes I don't even listen to you when you talk.
No, that's okay.
That's kind of words that are just coming out.
Fill space. That's all I do. So
last week, the dangerous duo of Cody Scher and TBC, Taquan Bradley Chambers, did their best for the Indians, and Scher had 309 yards on 18 carries, and Bradley Chambers with a modest 247 to follow up his previous week against Tamaulipa. So not bad there for the Indians. Yeah,
that's a nice 1-2 punch for them, obviously, and Cody Scher can do it with his arm as well. He's proven that several times this season. But talk about a dynamic backfield for the Indians, and they have playmakers, and they've shown it this year, and they did it again against Pottsville last week. So
We can talk about Lehighton a little bit later, but also another crazy game with an ending that I wish I personally saw. Got to address the elephant in the room here, Jim Thorpe and Tamaqua, and wow. This is a game that maybe we'll look back in a few months and say maybe this was kind of season defining for the Olympians. In Tamaqua, that's three tough losses in a row.
Started with the Pottsville game, then obviously the Lehighton game, which was back and forth.
Man, a couple yards here, a couple yards there, different story.
And this Jim Thorpe game, which is probably since I've been here, since we've been here. I mean, I don't think we've really ever had a game comes down to a play like that decides it. But that's big for the Olympians, and I think it shows that I think you covered them against Blue Mountain earlier this year, and there was that kind of goal line stand, and they sort of they didn't let Blue Mountain score, and maybe that was kind of like a character moment. And then you look at a game like this, and you see that they're able to kind of rise up and come back in a situation like that, where Tamaqua maybe kind of punches them in the mouth there, and obviously it's a game that kind of takes a lot of resolve to come back, and they were able to do it. And now they're still on track, and they get Pottsville this week. But yeah, I mean, Jim Thorpe, it's kind of like a magical run, and it continues. So.
And this is Schuylkill League Division I. It just never stops. Like you said, Pottsville is going to take on Jim Thorpe, and then Tamaqua travels to North Schuylkill. So for Tamaqua, it's okay, guys. We lost the last two games by 10 total points, which could come down to a yard or two. 2 weeks ago, Lehighton stopped them on a big 4th and 2, but the Raiders were driving in Indian territory. So really, these games are starting to get dictated by 1 or 2 plays or 1 or 2 yards, different this and that. So it's very hard to predict these games, which is why oftentimes I don't like to, and I'm not very good at picking them either. But we're just seeing some great football. And you look at Jim Thorpe, and what a wave of emotion. I mean, you go from losing to winning on a 30-something yard Hail Mary pass, and I just can't imagine that raw emotion right after a win. You see that ball across the pylon there, and that has to be an incredible feeling for that program.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the lowest of lows to the highest of highs. Your undefeated season, all this stuff that you've worked so hard for, and then all of a sudden you can see it's over, and then in a flash, they're still alive. Everything that obviously they're still playing for a lot regardless in the postseason, but everything is still on the table for them. Heading into week 9.
And Tamaqua, these kids don't quit. It's a very good football team, so they're up for another good battle this week against North Schuylkill. Very quality football team in Division I. And I guess we'll kind of jump around here, shall we? And just Marion with a 44-0 win over Shenandoah. So the Colts kind of finding a groove, maybe something starting to click for Marion.
And they get another game this week that certainly on paper looks like it's a winnable game against Minersville. Marion seems like it's maybe right where it needs to be here, heading down these last couple of weeks. Obviously, there's a big game looming with Tamaqua, coming up this, in week 10. But Marion seems like maybe it's kind of found its stride, and maybe you go back to that Panther Valley game where they put up 41 points in the 4th quarter to win that game against Panther Valley. So Marion looks like right now it's kind of firing on all cylinders.
Jumping around our area teams, Pleasant Valley, big win at East Stroudsburg North. It's like playing in another dimension. How was that car ride to East Stroudsburg North last week?
I don't know. It takes a long time to get there, but it certainly was good for the Bears. It's their 2nd win of the season. East Stroudsburg North is winless, but Aiden McHugh had a phenomenal game for the Bears. Now, that's a sophomore backup quarterback, took over for Brandon Keys, and 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, throws a nice deep ball. Seems like he's really kind of fit Mark Versick's system really, really well. And they had Brent Beck back, Mikey Brown. It looks like maybe some other guys will be back before the end of the year. So maybe I don't know if we've seen the last of Pleasant Valley this season. They have Pocono East this week, big bucket game, rivalry game. So we'll see.
Looking down, we got Schuylkill Haven 76-0 win over Panther Valley. A bunch of different Panthers faces getting some varsity action there. So Panther Valley getting a bunch of new people involved and getting used to the varsity system and that level of play there. You saw Rice a few weeks ago at Lehighton throwing the ball, quarterback. Talk about that kid a little bit.
seemed like he played really well. Kind of almost, I don't know if he provided a spark for the team in the second half, but Panther Valley was able to kind of to do some things. He had, it seemed like a nice rapport with Tristan Blasco, Tyler Baez, Rennie Figueroa. Obviously, they have playmakers, and he seemed really comfortable with getting the ball out there. Made good decisions. Obviously it's kind of a little bit of a different, situation once you get thrown into varsity action, but he seemed like he was really comfortable in his role with the offense.
Moving on, we got Palmer, 26-7 win over Caddy last week. So Takeo Gaitis and the Blue Bombers kind of getting back on track there and getting a big Colonial win over Catasauqua.
Yeah, and again, you kind of think about where where this Palmerton team is. Obviously, big games coming up these last couple of weeks. They have Salisbury this week, which has shown an ability to put some points on the board, win some games. Then they come up with Northern Lehigh at the end of the year. So we'll see. But this Palmerton team looks like it's kind of well positioned for a nice run at the end of the year.
Northwestern playing Southern Lehigh tough. 28-21 Southern Lehigh victory over the Tigers. But is there such thing as a good loss? I don't know. But that was impressive that the Tigers hung with such a Colonial League power as Southern Lehigh last week.
Yeah, and I think I don't know, maybe sometimes we just kind of, jump to conclusions a little bit too much and think of, this is Southern Lehigh and this is Northwestern, look at records and maybe what they've done and just sort of, write it off as a game that's going to definitely be a win for Southern Lehigh. But that's Josh Snyder, and he's got these kids playing well. Again, they have some of these guys back that missed some time at the beginning of the year, and they were up for that game. They were up, they were ready to go, and they have a chance to finish this season, with a decent record, to be, 500 and see, kind of see what happens. They get Northern Lehigh this week, which is obviously a huge rivalry game, and we'll see kind of where things shake out for Northwestern.
Yeah, and looking over these couple of games, and it's getting down to the wire here, and everything's setting up for about as good of a finish as we could possibly hope for. In the Time News area on a bunch of different levels, and you got to look at. You start with Jim Thorpe and Pottsville this week. And it's hard, like I said, the dots just don't connect with these area teams. You can't play that game. Well, this team is better than this team because they beat them this week. Yeah. That theory doesn't fly anymore. So Pottsville on the road looking to rebound against Jim Thorpe. That's the biggest win. I'm not saying the biggest win for the Olympians, but in maybe exciting fashion in a long time that I can remember.
Yeah, and again, you think about the way that they had to do it. To think about kind of getting a game like that and to show that they're able to fight back. Because obviously that was a back and forth game. It came down to that play, but obviously there was a lot that happened leading up to that on both sides. So for Jim Thorpe to battle back, I know it's cliched and it's the typical sports talk and everything like that, but I do think it shows a lot about what that team's made of, and it does seem like it's a special year. I think this maybe is a special year for the Olympians. That defense has been great. We saw it with St. Hill, and Roshak and O'Toole, and they have guys on offense. Selby, when he's healthy, obviously making plays. So they have guys that are making plays, and we'll see. A Week 10 maybe. Don't want to look too far ahead, but a Week 10 matchup against Lehighton, maybe that would be two undefeated teams would be huge.
And speaking of Lehighton, I talked to head coach Tom McCarroll today, and that's exactly what he said. We can't look ahead. This Blue Mountain program is tough. And they shut out Pottsville a couple of weeks ago. And I guess that could be a message that he said to his kids. It could be. We gave up 30-something points to this Pottsville team, and Blue Mountain just shut them out. But Lehighton putting up points at will, but these teams are so talented. Lehighton and Blue Mountain is going to be a great game, I think.
Yeah, and again, that's one of those where you can't look at it because of who Blue Mountain lost to, who Lehighton beat, and just sort of try to, connect any dots there. You just have to go out and you see what happens. None of these games it's not a slam dunk for any of these teams in any of these games. So I'm excited to see what happens.
And you look at the Colonial League, Northwestern at Northern Lehigh. This is a Northern Lehigh team who's put up at least 20 points in 4 of the 8 games. I keep saying that statistic because it's significant. That team was a lot better than its record showed. You're able to put points on the board like that. The ball just hasn't bounced its way. So here's a great Colonial League backyard rivalry. The Tigers looking good. If you look at Northwestern, from where they started the season, has some issues with their rosters and things like that. And we're really struggling to put points on the board. I just recall kind of the Salisbury game and some other games where the Tigers just couldn't get it going. But now they got everybody rolling on all cylinders, able to mesh for a couple of weeks. And you look at Northern Lehigh, who, you're going to talk to these coaches, and they're like, just throw the records out for this one. You got kids like Justin Paul, who are averaging well over 4.5 yards a carry. So there's some playmakers in this Colonial League game, and I think we're going to see a good one. The Tigers are going to be on the road traveling to Lehighton.
Yeah, and I mean, Northern Lehigh quarterback Zach Long, I think he had a nice game last week against Salisbury. Mason Seiler has also been big for the Bulldogs. He's had several nice games this season. So, yeah, it's not, I mean, again, like you said, throw records out. It's not like these kids aren't playing hard. I saw them play Penn Argyll on Saturday, two, winless teams at that point. And that was probably one of the best games that I've covered all season. That came down to, right down to the very end. And Joe Tout, former Panther Valley coach Matt Davis, everybody on that staff has these kids ready to play each and every week. They're not, they haven't packed it in, I don't think, by any means. So, so they have 2 weeks, and I'm sure that they're looking forward to both of those games to end the season.
Going down the list here, Palmer at Salisbury. Palmer looking to get another Colonial League victory this week. Salisbury, a team that's kind of hard to pinpoint what they're about this year. Talk about the Bombers in Salisbury a little bit, Pat.
I mean, we saw Salisbury, a couple of weeks ago, put in a different quarterback, put up a lot of points against Penn Argyll, and then last week beat Northern Lehigh, put up, over 30 points again. So it seemed like maybe last week Salisbury kind of just had that big second quarter, put up, about 20 points to kind of just, pull away, and then a strong second half. But Salisbury's a team that I think we talked earlier in the year. They put up over 40 against Caddy week 1, and then the offense just kind of seemed like it, sort of shut down for a couple of weeks. But it seems like these last few weeks, the Falcons have sort of found their wings, I guess you could say, and they've been able to put some points on the board. So we'll see, what they can do against Palmerton.
Mahanoy and Panther Valley, big Schuylkill League Division II game.
Yeah, and we kind of, I don't know. We looked at what Mahanoy might do. Thought maybe they had a chance against Marion. Marion won that game. Panther Valley, obviously, coming off a tough game against Schuylkill Haven. I don't know. There were a lot of things, I guess, in that one. Schuylkill Haven put up a lot of points, but I'm not 100% sure of what happened there. But for Panther Valley, I think this is a winnable game, and I do feel like, too, with where they are in the district standings, they have a lot to play for here these next couple of weeks. These games are very important for head coach Scott Price, first year in charge of the program, done a really, really nice job he has these kids in a position where they have a chance to play meaningful games in November. They have a chance to play these games, postseason experience for these kids. The underclassmen, upperclassmen can kind of go out with a bang. So we'll see what Panther Valley can do against Mahanoy.
It's exciting for teams like Mahanoy area and Panther Valley with those district, with the new classes. Yeah. Every week's kind of a playoff game. Yeah. I mean, it sounds cliche, but every week matters that much to teams like Mahanoy and Panther Valley. So the stakes are high in this one, for sure.
Yeah, and I think both sides know that. Both sides know that. We talked earlier about not looking past any opponent or any game, and neither one will be doing that this week. I think they'll both be ready to go Friday night.
And moving down the list, you got Tamaqua and North Schuylkill, and Tamaqua looking to rebound, played 3 tough games, and those were all games that Tamaqua, played good enough to win. But like I said, 1 or 2 plays here, a couple yards here or there, that's the little bit that separates a lot of these Schuylkill League Division I teams. So Tamaqua's still playing good football. Don't let this 3-in-a-row streak fool you. Tamaqua's a very dangerous team. They're going to play another dangerous team in North Schuylkill, who, we've seen them play so many teams tough. We've seen a crazy rally against Steel High. We've seen a win over Mount Carmel. They played Lehighton until the final 20 seconds. Yeah. Made a little run against Jim Thorpe in the fourth quarter. You were there for that. So
10-point game.
10-point game.
Fourth quarter. This final score ended up 42-18, but at one point it was 28-18. So I don't know. That was one where I don't think the final score was really indicative. But yeah, this, like you said, North Schuylkill's played tough games. They're battle tested, all the cliches that you want to throw out there. They've been in those kind of situations, but for Tamaqua, it's obviously each week is Just got to worry about the next one. Can't look too far ahead. So
Pocono East going to Pleasant Valley, and what are your thoughts now on Pleasant Valley? A big game behind Aiden McHugh. You think we're going to see a little bit of momentum there build up for the Bears and some confidence in such a young quarterback?
Yeah, only a sophomore, but again, I think having Brent Beck back, in the backfield last week, he was the starting running back at the beginning of the year, went down with an injury, missed some time. Their first scoring drive was, 4 plays, 50 yards. He touched the ball either, on the ground or, in the air. He touched the ball every one of those plays. I think he's really big, even if it's just as a safety blanket for Aiden McHugh. Bears looked good last week against East Stroudsburg North, but this is a Pocono East team that's played better this season. So we'll see what happens when Pleasant Valley heads back home.
Anything else, surprises you from last week, or anything you're looking forward to this week of football?
No, again, we kind of have these divisional races coming down to the wire, and not to get ahead of ourselves, but it could be a really interesting and exciting week 10. When we finally get to that point. So.
Yeah, and some people ask me, what do you think about Player of the Year? Well, oh man, the jury's still out. We have so many talented kids on both sides of the football, but offensively, there's a lot of football left. And you look at your Cody Shares, you look at Taquan Bradley Chambers, Takeo Gatis from Palmerton, you look at Justin St. Hill from Jim Briner, Nick Briner from Tamaqua. The 2 quarterback system. Knobloch and Zuber, those kids are very important to that team as well. And you just kind of go around the list there. It's like, I don't know. At this point, the jury's still out for that.
Yeah, and you kind of maybe in some ways hope or think that once we hit the postseason, and games like that, those kind of situations, somebody will sort of put their stamp on it and kind of have that moment, have that game, see what happens. So.
Well, that's all the time we have this week on Times News High School Football Sports Chat. Just a reminder, every Thursday, check out our paper with our previews, Player of the Week story, Game of the Week story, football capsules, overtime column. Friday, we'll be at all the games, all of our raters. We have something for Saturday's paper. We'll get you some video action as well. So, for Patrick Matsingo and the rest of the sports department, I'm Justin Carlucci. Enjoy the rest of your week.